I'm not the man you remember.
Well, you're going to have to be.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is back, and his return has shaken the universe. Join us as we check out how everyone's been handling the craziness on set.
Here we are.
Number 1. Is that Obi-Wan? No, it's Kenobi. Where's he been? It was a surreal experience for Hayden Christensen to see Ewan McGregor on set.
But honestly, no one was more excited than I was.
Personal connection aside, the crew was filled with cinephiles, so we'd say his excitement was on par.
So there were a lot of Star Wars fans that were a part of our crew.
So they all had their geek out moments when the actors showed up in costume. This was pretty exciting for Ewan, who, for years, felt icky about the prequels after they were trashed by critics. Ewan said it was a very long, slow process of coming back to playing him. At the end of every interview, I was asked 2 things. Would I do the sequel to Trainspotting? And would I ever play Obi-Wan Kenobi again? Ewan was skeptical, but he came to learn that the generation who grew up on the prequels love them.
But now you feel that warmth from the fans after many years, and it's really nice.
So when he learned this, it really rejuvenated him, reversing those bitter feelings. He continued, then Disney just asked me to come in one day for a meeting because they kept seeing on social media that I would like to play Obi-Wan Kenobi again.
If I could be part of that, then I would want to do that.
Number 2. This new tech is the innovation actors have been waiting a lifetime for. The green and blue screens are the way of the past.
You know, we have these amazing, huge LCD screen dome that goes around the stage.
The technology of the future is called StageCraft.
So if we're playing a scene in the desert, well, it's the desert everywhere you look.
Ewan said if you're flying through space, then the stars are flying past you as you scout along. It's so cool.
Just a much more visceral experience.
Number 3. To fight in a movie, training must you do. Their teacher probably wasn't Yoda. If you don't count the stunt doubles, the Jedi School was pretty empty, and one student, Moses Ingram, was just a bit of a bad apple, getting in a ton of trouble from her manager for posting this video. She got to keep her lightsaber handle from the shoot. These new lightsabers are a step up from the ones that were used for the prequels, which were just metal blades. Closer to real swords than anything, and at the speed they were fighting, talk about dangerous. Rupert Friend said of his character, the Grand Inquisitor's fight scenes, there is a smooth, silent, deadly efficiency to everything. It's not 2 guys brawling in a bar. These are master swordsmen. Masters of pretty much all the martial arts you could imagine rolled into one.
They handed it to me, and it's this double-ended, heavy, spinning, badass thing.
Number 4. This one's juicy. Rupert Friend spent 4 hours in the makeup chair, starting at 3 a.m. with 3 people doing his prosthetics.
You know, all these pieces of stuff on and contact lenses in and teeth in and then ear muffs. So it's kind of like sensory deprivation at times.
His armor weighed about 45 pounds and would make him sweat profusely. He avoided watching Rebels, fully aware that the character appeared in the animated show. He said, I really wanted to honor the character as I saw him, and so I almost deliberately did not see the animated interpretation.
It feels like being invited to the greatest party that you hadn't ever really imagined was going on.
He also observed that the character has this very juicy way of enjoying himself, saying, and I just thought, what does the guy who enjoys the sound of his own voice sound like?
You know who we are.
And that's what we got, juicy.
Do you know the key to hunting Jedi, friend?
Number 5. We've barely got the hang of this one in video games, let alone real life. Moses Ingram got to run across walls. She said it's hard to picture, but it was fly. And once she even got to cross the wall without being supported by wires. That mustn't have gone too well if after that she got wired up. Ingram said it was really fun. It's fun to be bad. The weaponry and the stunt work, once you get to a point where your body is confident doing the moves, that plays into it as well as the costumes.
But I can say that there are a lot of crazy, crazy cool moments in this thing.
Number 6. Only amateurs would drop a lightsaber. Obi-Wan would always sass Anakin if he dropped his lightsaber or misplaced it in the movies.
And that kind of, narrative continued offset too.
But then karma happened.
No, I think I dropped it, and I said to Moses, don't tell Hayden.
Number 7. Returning to an old character is like discovering math homework from grade 12. Hayden Christensen had to have a Vader movement specialist come in and make sure his every motion was authentic to the character. Ewan McGregor struggled to relearn his voice for the character. He went back and watched all the movies to help him.
I totally didn't have his voice at all.
He disappointed the entire crew when he was so rusty at it. He rectified that though, saying, "So I went back and did some homework with Alec Guiness and what he'd done before in the original films."
I'm looking for a Jedi.
Number 8. If they didn't auction off the original costumes, they could have just pulled them out of storage. The Darth Vader suit is improved every time the character returns to the screen. Ewan loved being able to act with the stormtroopers in this.
That's a long story.
It's a long way.
Because they didn't exist yet in the prequels. Moses Ingram said the costume designer did such an amazing job of building something that when you step into it, it lends itself to a feeling. When she got involved, her costume had already been designed, but her hair was imagined to be completely different than it ended up being on screen, and it was not something Ingram's hair does naturally. So Ingram told the director, and together they came up with the braids instead.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places.
Number 9. Deborah went Han Solo for this one. Deborah Chow directed every single episode of the show. That isn't always the case with TV shows, and certainly wasn't the case for The Mandalorian.
It would have been different, I think, if we'd had a different director for each episode.
She was there for all of the nuanced moments and character development, and that's the advantage of directing an entire show yourself. Her biggest challenge was that the story came between episodes 3 and 4. The audience, knowing where the characters were coming from and ultimately where they would end up, really limited their options.
I really don't think I could have honestly done Kenobi if I hadn't done Mandalorian first.
Deborah was so excited to work on really character-driven stories in the new Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Just you have the opportunity, obviously, to take the vision right from the very beginning all the way to the end.
Number 10. You should just expect people who run along walls to drive ridiculously. Moses isn't a huge fan of driving slow, so she cut off the motorcycle in front of her on her way to work.
When I see a yellow light, it means green, but like lighter.
Then the motorcycle pulled into the same lot as her.
And the person takes off their helmet and it's Ewan.
This isn't the first time this has happened to her either. That honor went to Denzel Washington. Number 11. Ask the OGs. Ewan and Hayden got to have input on where their characters were going. Ewan didn't work with the writers, but he was constantly giving his thoughts and opinions on the scripts.
Their instincts are always correct.
If anyone was ever unsure about a line of dialogue, they would go right to the actors. Because who'd worked with these characters the longest? That's right, the actors.
We'll see. Take her to interrogation.
Number 12. Show don't tell is a filmmaker's number 1 rule. Deborah Chow always goes back to westerns and samurai films for her references. Writer Joby Harold said, "I'm very aware of how potent the imagery can be in Star Wars, and slowing everything down so that that imagery can have as much weight as possible was the goal throughout, especially when it was going to help articulate Obi-Wan's arc. This is why the lightsaber on his hip was the closing image of the first episode. It's why he holds the lightsaber at the end of episode 2 and doesn't use it, so that when he does use it, it means something. That's also why he uses the Force for the first time in a long time when he saves Leia." Harold said, "All of those choices are very deliberate architecturally, so that they're hand in hand with the lead character as he's arcing rhythmically." Number 13. There will never be another Grogu, Disney. Joby Harold talked about the importance of including a young Princess Leia. Harold wanted to make connections to existing characters that he could embellish, so to include a young Princess Leia was important. He said, "It answers the question of why him. So, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope," feels less arbitrary as a choice and a decision, now that we know the depth of the history they have together. Given she named her son after Ben Kenobi, it made sense to deepen that bond through the new show.
The whole time I've known you, you've been hiding something.
Number 14. Star Wars is for everybody. Moses Ingram helped create the look and feel of her character. She wanted to inspire young girls who also want to dress up as Star Wars characters. She remembers growing up and watching certain things with her brothers and being told that this stuff was for boys, saying, "What's cool about this is you can fight like a girl and still be badass," which is pretty cool. She gives a lot of credit to the director Deborah Chow for welcoming her in and caring about her thoughts in terms of who the third sister might be.
Nobody is looking for me to be something specific, and I sort of have free reign to be who I think Reva is.
Number 15. Ewan is like cheese. He looks better with age. Ewan McGregor had to do a ton of fitness training because the fight sequences are really hard to do and can take weeks to shoot. Now being in his 50s, Ewan had to get super fit before they started, just to keep up. While Star Wars fans still can't agree on whether any material following the originals is good or not, there's one thing we can agree on. We missed you, Obi-Wan Kenobi. How did you get into watching Star Wars? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with us here at The Things.